It's May 15th, 2025. Sherpa Palchuntamong stood just below the Hillary Step, one of the deadliest choke points on Mount Everest, staring down at a man who was dying. His oxygen was nearly gone. His legs barely worked. And the climber he was guiding, Subrata Ghosh from Bengal, frozen, delirious, refused to move. They were 300 vertical feet from the summit, and one terrible, simple decision from never coming home. Palchun tried for hours. Begged, pulled, dragged, waited, but Subrata wouldn't budge, and staying meant death for both of them. So he turned around and walked away. This wasn't just a failed climb. It cracked something deeper. The Sherpas are leaving, and once you understand why, you'll never see Everest the same again. The death of Babu Chiri Sherpa in 2001 was a heartbreaking moment for Nepal and the global mountaineering community. Known as one of the most accomplished and respected Sherpas in history, Babu Chiri had already summited Mount Everest 10 times and set world records, including spending 21 hours on the summit without supplemental oxygen. But despite his unmatched experience, tragedy still found him on the mountain he knew better than almost anyone else. In April 2001, Babu Chiri returned to Everest once again, preparing for what was meant to be his 11th successful ascent. He was helping set up Camp 2, a vital staging point for climbers aiming for the summit. As he moved through the treacherous terrain near the camp, he accidentally fell into a hidden crevasse, a deep crack in the glacier, invisible beneath the snow. The fall was sudden and fatal. Despite immediate rescue efforts by nearby Sherpas and climbers, Babu could not be saved. The news of his death spread quickly through base camp and down the valleys of Nepal, sparking shock and mourning across the nation. For someone who had conquered Everest so many times and proven the strength of the Sherpa people on the world stage, his death was a devastating reminder of how unforgiving the mountain truly is. His passing wasn't just the loss of a mountaineer, it was the loss of a national hero. Babu Chiri had dedicated his life not just to climbing, but to building schools and empowering his community. His death left a void that still echoes through the Himalayas. Even the most legendary figures aren't immune to Everest's dangers, and that's what makes his story so deeply tragic. Many other Sherpas, like Babu Chiri, have tragically lost their lives in similar ways, falling into hidden crevasses, being swept away by avalanches, or succumbing to harsh weather while fixing routes for others. Despite their unmatched skills and experience, the mountain remains unpredictable and deadly. These men often die in silence, with little recognition beyond their local communities. While climbers celebrate their summits, it's the Sherpas who face the mountain's wrath first, and too often pay the ultimate price. Their sacrifices highlight the brutal reality behind every Everest expedition and the true cost of reaching the top. Mount Everest has stood as the ultimate challenge for adventurers, climbers, and thrill-seekers from around the globe. But what if I told you the very people who have made climbing Everest possible, the Sherpas, are now refusing to climb it? The same Sherpas who have carried gear, set up ladders, fixed ropes, and risked their lives countless times to get others to the summit are now stepping back. Why? What's really going on? To understand why Sherpas are refusing to climb Everest, we have to go back in time and look at who the Sherpas really are. They're not just guides. They're not just porters. They're an ethnic group native to the Himalayan region, particularly Nepal, and for centuries, they've lived near the world's highest peaks. The term Sherpa has over time become synonymous with high-altitude guiding, but that doesn't begin to tell their full story. These are people whose lives have been deeply intertwined with the mountains, whose lungs have evolved to work efficiently in thin air, and whose legacy is filled with bravery, tragedy, and resilience. Every climbing season, hundreds of climbers pour into Nepal, each paying tens of thousands of dollars for a chance to reach the top of the world. But very few understand that it's not their strength or skill alone that gets them there, it's the Sherpas. They're the unsung heroes who set up camps, haul equipment, fix the dangerous Khumbu icefall, and lead climbers to safety in conditions that are life-threatening. Some Sherpas have summited Everest more than 20 times, and yet they rarely get the credit. They rarely get the compensation, and they almost never get the protection they deserve. Over the last decade, a shift has started. Sherpas have begun to speak out. They've started to question the risks they're forced to take for the sake of wealthy climbers, many of whom arrive underprepared, undertrained, and overconfident. Imagine risking your life, time and time again, to help someone who has no business being on the mountain. That's what many Sherpas are feeling. They're tired of risking everything, so that someone else can take a selfie on the summit. And it's not just about danger, though that's a huge part of it. Everest is deadly. The risks aren't theoretical. The Khumbu icefall collapses without warning. Avalanches sweep through base camps. High-altitude sickness, frostbite, falls, these are all common. In 2014, an avalanche killed 16 Sherpas in a single moment. It was one of the deadliest accidents in Everest history, and every single victim was a Sherpa. The world mourned, but then moved on. The families left behind, however, didn't. And the Sherpa community? They were shaken. That tragedy became a turning point. It wasn't just grief, it was anger. Why were Sherpas always the ones dying? Why weren't their lives valued the same? Following that tragedy, many Sherpas demanded better insurance, fair pay, and improved working conditions. Some even walked off the mountain in protest. It was a bold, almost unheard-of move at the time, but it planted a seed. It made the world, and the mountaineering industry, realize that Sherpas weren't going to stay silent forever. And then came 2015. Another year, another tragedy, this time an earthquake that triggered an avalanche on Everest, killing at least 22 people, including Sherpas. The death toll from the earthquake across Nepal was devastating, but again, Sherpas were right there in the thick of it, risking their lives, rescuing climbers, and suffering losses of their own. The mountain had claimed too many lives already. For many Sherpas, it was enough. But beyond the physical dangers, there's another issue: money. Climbing Everest is a multi-million-dollar industry. A single climber may pay anywhere from $40,000 to over $100,000 for a guided expedition. But how much of that actually reaches the Sherpas doing the real work? The answer: not much. In most cases, Sherpas earn just a fraction of what Western guides or expedition companies earn. And for that money, they're expected to do the most dangerous jobs. Fix ropes across deadly crevasses. Haul oxygen bottles to 8,000 meters. Climb through the night. Rescue climbers in whiteout conditions. And if something goes wrong, there's little support, little insurance, and often no safety net for their families. Many Sherpas are now asking, is it worth it? Is any amount of money worth not seeing your children grow up? Worth dying on a mountain that isn't even your dream? There's also the issue of respect, or rather the lack of it. Time and again, Sherpas have reported being treated like tools rather than people. Some climbers don't even learn their names. Others boss them around or ignore their advice. Sherpas are seen as just the help. But these are men and women who know the mountain better than anyone. Some have spent more time above 8,000 meters than any foreign climber ever will. And still, they are overlooked, underappreciated, and disrespected. In recent years, the overcrowding on Everest has become another flashpoint. The images have gone viral, long lines of climbers shoulder to shoulder, waiting their turn on the summit ridge like it's an amusement park ride. Sherpas see this and they worry. This isn't mountaineering. It's chaos. And it's dangerous. Every minute you spend at that altitude, your life is at risk. So imagine being stuck in a traffic jam at 8,800 meters, trying to guide someone who can barely stand, knowing that if anything goes wrong, it'll be you who has to fix it. That's the reality for Sherpas today. And more of them are saying no more. Some have started to leave the industry altogether. They're opening ghost houses, guiding treks at lower altitudes, or taking up new careers. Others are forming unions and advocacy groups to demand better conditions. They're no longer willing to be silent laborers on someone else's dream. They want fairness, dignity, and above all, safety. But it's not just personal safety. Sherpas are also deeply connected to Everest spiritually. The mountain, known as Sagarmatha in Nepali and Komolungma in Tibetan, is considered sacred. For many Sherpas, climbing it is not just a job, it's a serious spiritual undertaking. Before each expedition, they hold a traditional puja ceremony to ask for the mountain's blessing. But when they see Everest being treated like a commercial playground, when they see trash piling up, human waste left behind, and climbers acting recklessly, it hurts. It disrespects their culture and their beliefs. Some Sherpas feel that Everest has become a cursed place, no longer sacred but polluted by greed. Climate change is making things worse. The glaciers are melting. Icefalls are becoming more unstable. What used to be a solid section of ice can now collapse within hours. Sherpas see the changes firsthand, and they fear what's coming. They're the ones who are out there season after season, noticing the shifting landscape, the thinning air, the warming temperatures. And with each passing year, the danger grows. There's also a new generation of Sherpas. Young men and women who have watched their fathers and uncles die on mountain, and who are now choosing a different path. Many of them are educated. They speak multiple languages. They see other opportunities. And they're asking, why should I risk my life for someone else's Instagram post? Some are still proud to be part of the climbing tradition, but they want to do it differently, on their own terms, with better pay, better gear, and real respect. It's also important to talk about what happens after a Sherpa dies. In many cases, the climbers, they help go on to tell their heroic stories, to boast about reaching the summit. But the Sherpa's family is left with grief and not much else. Insurance payouts are often minimal. Support is inconsistent. There are Sherpa widows struggling to feed their children, while climbers post summit photos with no mention of the person who got them there. All of this, the danger, the disrespect, the exploitation, the environmental damage, the lack of recognition, it's built up over years. And now, Sherpas are drawing the line. Some have started to boycott dangerous climbs. Others are refusing to guide climbers they believe are unprepared. They're speaking out in interviews, holding protests, even going on strike. It's a movement that's growing, and it's forcing the world to take a hard look at what Everest has become. It's no longer just a mountain, it's a mirror, a reflection of privilege, inequality, and the price of ambition. The Sherpas have always been strong, always been brave, but now they're being something even more powerful, united. They're standing up, not just for themselves, but for the future of their community, their mountain, and their culture. If this video gave you a new perspective, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories that go beyond the headlines. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive like this one. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the biggest stories come from those who've been quiet for too long.